Hello everyone, welcome to the House of Barnes. Come on in. Today what I'm going to be showing you guys how to make is my favorite family recipe, which is this carrot cake. This carrot cake is actually my grandma's carrot cake recipe that she got from a lady who came from Italy in the 1950s or 60s to work at Daisy BB Gun Factory in Rogers, Arkansas. A few years ago for Christmas, my mom took the actual original recipe that my grandmother had typed out and she sent it to somebody on Etsy who had it made into a plate for me and my sister and gave it to us for Christmas. And so I hang this up in my pantry and I make this recipe for almost every Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, any type of family celebration. You could even do Christmas brunch with it or any type of brunch because it's got lots of fruit and nuts, or it's perfect for after dinner dessert. The first thing we're going to do is make our carrots ready to put into the cake. And what I've done with these carrots are I've already taken the just the outer skin off of the outside with a little grater, and we're going to make our carrots like this for the cake. So the way that I do that is I just take a cheese grater and I just lightly run the carrot down it, and it gives us the perfect little carrot grates for our cake. The good thing about fresh grated carrots is that if they're already grated in the store, the external part of the grate isn't as soft, and so these are really fresh and they're going to bake perfectly in our cake. Now we're going to add 1 cup of crushed pineapple. If you don't have crushed pineapple, that's okay. I actually really like to just take a cup of pineapple chunks with the juice and put them in my blender. I feel like that makes the perfect amount of pineapple. Add those to your 2 cups of grated carrots, and we're also going to add 1 cup of chopped pecans. Once you add these together, just set them aside and we'll start mixing the next part of the ingredients. Now you're going to add 4 eggs to a fairly large bowl, because this is going to be the bowl that you're going to be mixing all the ingredients into. Just whisk them gently. You don't want to mix them too much because that will make your cake tough. We're going to add 1.5 cups of oil. Just canola oil is fine. This is, being my grandmother's cake, everyone back then used just canola oil. And then we're also going to add 2 cups of sugar. Get this nice and mixed together well. Make sure you can't see any sugar clumps. Now that we have our egg, sugar, and oil mixed together, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. I have a pretty funny story about the baking soda. You want to make sure that your baking soda is pretty fresh, like you've opened it within the last month, and that it's within its expiration date, it's not expired, because one time I used some baking soda that we don't know how old it was, and it was for a church event in South Carolina, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but when we cut open the cake to serve, the carrots were blue and green, and we thought somehow I had poisoned the cake, and so I searched online and found out that it was the baking soda. If the baking soda is old or it's expired, you don't want to use it for carrot cake because you will scare people. So once we get those mixed in, then we've got 2 cups of flour here. I like to add about half, and then go ahead and mix that in. You want to mix it pretty well, but not overly. Then add the rest of your flour. Continue mixing with our spatula. That way we don't overbeat the eggs. All right, and that's what it should look like. Now we're going to take the pineapple, carrots, and pecans that we already measured and set aside and add this to our mixture. And we're gonna mix that kind of with a sweeping motion. This is the easiest way that I found to get this all to incorporate and come together without completely wearing your arm out. Now we're gonna get our pan ready to add the batter. My favorite way of doing this is just with good old-fashioned butter and a little bit of flour. I have made this cake so many times, and sometimes I just try to use the spray oil or even the kind that's especially for cakes, and I can never get this cake to come out right. So when I use butter and a little bit of flour, it always comes out perfect. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just taking a stick of butter straight out of the refrigerator, and I'm rubbing the butter all over. This pan's a little tricky because it has all these grooves, but it makes a really pretty cake. Once we rub that around, you're just going to smooth it out with your hands. You don't want any bumps of butter. Once it's really good and buttered, I'm gonna add just a little bit of flour. And this pan is a little tricky, but you're going to just pat the pan around to make sure the flour coats. Now we have our perfectly floured and buttered pan, and we're gonna add our carrot cake mixture. Now we're gonna add this to our 350-degree preheated oven. At about 50 minutes in, you're gonna wanna check your cake. Pull it out and just lightly touch it. See, this one is all very soft and bubbly. This one is starting to push back whenever I poke it. So we know we've probably got 2 to 3 minutes left on it. Once your cake is completely cooled, go ahead and start making your frosting. You're going to add 1 stick of real butter with 1 block of cream cheese. Go ahead and let them sit out on your countertop for about 30 to 45 minutes to let them soften so that this process is easier. Add them to your stand mixer, and we're going to go ahead and mix these two. Once it's about halfway mixed really well, go ahead and put 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This is the really thick kind of vanilla, I guess, because it's from the bottom. That's okay, it's extra flavorful. Once that's mixed in just a little bit, I like to take my bowl and scrape the sides just to make sure we're not leaving any of the cream cheese or butter unmixed. And we're going to whip it just a little bit longer. Now we're going to add 2 pounds of powdered sugar. That's about an average size of powdered sugar that you would buy at the grocery store. Just go ahead and add the whole thing. And then we're going to lock in our mixer and put it on low until you don't see the powder anymore. So once our frosting is at a point where it's really thick and it's really well mixed, I actually have a secret that I'm going to tell you guys about. I, at this point, like to add water because it's going to mix with the oil in the butter and give us this really nice whipped texture that is so good in frosting. So we're gonna turn our mixer on sort of low, and I've just got a few tablespoons here of cold water. Add about 1 tablespoon at a time, and it's like magic. I think this is gonna be perfect. Yep, that's perfect. What we're going to need is just a big frosting bag. You're going to use one of these tips, but you could use any kind that you would like for your cake. We're going to put it down in the end of our bag. And then if your bag isn't already cut, I've already used this for something else, go ahead and cut around so that your frosting tip is exposed. Once our cake is cooled, we're gonna go ahead and do the frosting. There's a few different frosting styles I like. It just depends on your guests or your family, what they like. If they like more frosting, you may do the design where you're just doing lots of rows of piped lines across the top all the way around, and you can do as much frosting or as little as you would like. This type of frosting that I'm going to show you is really quick, and I think it's just the right amount of frosting for my family. We're gonna let the frosting hang and do a loop, and then go back down in the center as far as you can go. What we're gonna do, I follow, see here we have these ridges, and then we have these different bumps. I do a loop on each of the bumps, and then I go back and do a line on the ridges. Get it frosted all the way around, we're gonna fill up the center with frosting, and what that does is it gives you a little bit of extra frosting just in case you have 1 or 2 people that really like extra frosting. Please like and subscribe to my channel so that you can watch more content from the House of Barnes in the future.